BYDFi is a crypto exchange on desktop and mobile where you can spot trade, futures trade, use leverage tokens, and copy the trades of top trade. There's hundreds of crypto available on their spot exchange, as well as a free test account so you can practice futures trading without getting wrecked. BYDFi. Hello everybody, welcome back. So I'm going to make a video about Vechain. Yeah, I know, I don't think I've ever done one before, to be honest with you, but the beauty of doing a Patreon is that I get presented with charts I would never normally look at. I'm a big advocate of only trading, you know, a select few charts. If you're trading, that would be, if you're a trader, you know, a select few charts that you're familiar with, that you know the behavior of, because they all behave in different ways to the same indicators, you know, so you find the ones that suit your particular trading style and stick with those. Like I say, I'm a big advocate for that. So I generally trade with my blinkers on, you know, having a handful, more than a handful, to be honest, about a good, I'm fluent with about 10 to 15 charts that I would trade regularly. And I'm open to you know, another 5 to 10 more, but generally that's about it for me. Yeah, you know, in the world where there's a million charts to trade, you know, there's really no point in doing that because you want to be as familiar as possible. But the good thing about the Patreon though is that I get presented with charts I would never normally look at. I'm more than aware of them, but I would never look at them. One of them being Vechain. So we were talking about, you know, what things would be like long term for crypto, for particular coins. It's always a big focus, considering I'm expecting a consolidation at some point this year, not seem to be having it, but at some point this year in stocks, crypto, and you know, Bitcoin, the lot. At what point do we think about start buying these things back? And you know, if we're talking like a long-term trade, or you could call it a short-term investment, you know, where would you start and why would you start buying some of these things up? And Vechain sort of jumped out as a really good example of a chart and as a coin, you know, that actually has some decent potential. And when I say potential, I'm talking about making profit. I'm not talking about billions of X's. I'm not talking about millionaire starter kits. I'm just talking about making money, because that's all it really is about. I think a lot of the problem with crypto these days, or all the time generally, is that a handful of people who are prevalent on social media show you how they made, you know, millions of dollars from very small amounts of money, because you know, they kind of got lucky, really, and look, I've got lucky a couple of times, only a couple of times done 100x. It's, you know, it's very rare to do 100x, and there is an element of luck in that. So I'm not talking about 100x, I'm talking about buying something lower and selling something higher. Basically, that's the whole point of it, isn't it, really? I'm not talking about a million, zillion X's or millions of dollars. So if we think about Vechain right now, so we're floating just above the 4-cent zone. If we go to the candle body highs, we're looking at a 500% gain, right? So if in the normal world, 500% is like a lot of gains, especially if your time frame is a year to 18 months, which is what it kind of is. You know, that's what the time frame would be to realize the profits. We don't know the full cycle is going to repeat like it always does, but as far as I can tell, I don't see any reason why it won't. You know, the halving is part of the reason that we have a 4-year market cycle. The dollar is also, anecdotally, in a 4-year cycle as well, more or less, give or take. And there's so many influences externally that will break that 4-year cycle for one way or another. But until the model is broken, we shouldn't assume that it will be broken or that it will be the same. But if there is a model that fits, this one is currently the one, and so we're working generally with the, I suppose, an educated guess is that it will continue to, because look, market cycles of all forms are the reason they exist is because of human behavior and anticipation and expectation. So I expect it generally to perform similar to how it always has. I would imagine many people also do, and unless we see signs that it's not going to, or if there's external influences which would prove it to be less likely, then fine. But just bear this in mind. Last cycle there was a giant external influence which rocked the boat, and it's still completed on time. So, you know, I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say the words, but you know, that thing that happened in 2019, 2020, that thing, that caused huge ripples in the market, and it's still, you know, the 4-year market cycle is still completed on time with the crash and with the stimulus, and then the May dump and then continuation. So, you know, the cycle completed regardless of substantial interference, right? So that's enough of that. So I'm talking about being realistic about buying something low, selling it higher. That's all I'm talking about. And if it goes on to new all-time highs, which it could, then excellent, absolutely brilliant. So what we're looking at, quite simply, is a chart that has been in quite a long period of accumulation from these lows down here, basically 1.4 cents, to these highs roughly around these here. So we're talking a range of 100%, which is not unusual at all for an altcoin to accumulate within a 100% range. That brings us to roughly about 3 cents, which is also just below this golden cross, which has taken place on exponential moving averages on the weekly. So it's a big deal for any weekly, especially an altcoin, to even have this sort of setup in the first place, because most of them aren't old enough to even have something like this. Vechain is old enough to have something like this. Now, also, you got to think about these moves like this. These are parabolic moves that take place at the end of a market cycle. Huge inflow, massive amount of FOMO, and retail. Basically, we haven't really seen retail, and trust me, like, I've been in crypto for years. I've been doing this YouTube channel since about 2019. And I've got Telegrams and Discords and Twitters. I'm in contact with retail, right? So, I kind of know what it's like to gauge the idea of whether a retailer in or out, and I don't think they're really in at all, to be honest with you. Crypto's still got a very bad name for itself. You speak to the average Joe, the thing that sticks in their head right now is FTX. Everybody seems to know that. That was the common thing that hit the average person. So they've been scared out because of that, scared off exchanges, generally speaking, and fair enough. But as far as general huge amounts of retail coming in, they're not there yet. And they will come again later, once the FOMO starts, and it will happen again. So I'm talking about buying Vechain, for a long-term position, and the most obvious place to buy it from, there's two of them. The first one has already been hit these last couple of weeks past, right? So 20 moving average is always a good place to start for an investment. A long-term position starts at a 20 simple on a weekly, and you would be looking for this to continue with this range, generally speaking, up into next year, and hopefully meeting its previous local highs over here, all-time highs we'll call it, but I go by candle bodies rather than wicks. So we're talking 25 cents, a nice round number for the FOMO retail Captain Noob Masters to get to kick in with. There's a good chance it can go higher. We're looking over here, what we see is we're turning down on momentum. So this goes hand in hand with the idea that I think that things are still yet to consolidate. I believe that we're looking for a consolidation first before we start buying lower. And I know that on days like today and over the weekend when people are seeing the green, look, if you were part of the Patreon, you would have known that, because I would have said altcoins are measuring up to do a 10 to a 20% move between now and Monday, and I think those things have been done. Also, Bitcoin itself hitting a daily moving average around here, the 20 simple moving average at Bollinger Band Center. It also is sort of and ahhing whether or not it can handle this death cross retest. There's also a death cross retest of the simple moving averages up here at 67,100. So there's a lot going on the markets, and I actually think that we are going to consolidate throughout the summer, which means that we should start thinking about what coins it is we're going to buy once those consolidations have ended. So we've got two things to think about with Vechain. We've got the lows down here, which is, like I say, 1.4 cents. We've got the top of the accumulation range as well, which is roughly about 3 cents, roughly, give or take 3 cents. Again, these aren't particularly neat, but we'll go for 3 cents, which is also currently floating around this golden cross retest, which is about a 25% drop from where we're at right now, 26%, which again, I make the analogy on the Patreon sometimes. Look, if you had to buy this, let's just say I think the last one I used was, look, you're about to serve a jail sentence. You're going to go to jail. You're going to jail for a year. You've got today to buy some crypto if you wanted to. I know it's not the perfect low, but you'll never get that. Is this an okay place to buy it? If you're going to jail tomorrow, you're going to miss out on probably the even lower lows, and then by the time you come out, they'll be higher than it is now, assuming that the cycle continues in the way I expect it to. So look, this isn't a perfect place at all. Neither is this, and to be fair with you, neither would be this. Nothing's a perfect place to enter, but look, we're looking at a range, an accumulation range which is broken. We're looking probably for a retest of those of that range, the top of the range, and that would give us an area of around about 3 cents. And if you're looking to buy at 3 cents, if it were to come down to 3 cents and hold you know, throughout the duration of the rest of the market cycle, you can increase your gains quite a lot. So rather than buying today, which would give you a 500%, and this is only if you sold the previous candle body high, you'd be looking instead to make 760%, which again is not bad, you know. You shouldn't really complain with that, and if you do complain with making that sort of those sort of gains in such a small space of time, there's something wrong with you. All right, you really do need to get your head checked, and this is the problem. I think a big problem with crypto, that someone will look at that and go, "Oh, what? Ugh, I'm not gonna." 760%. I wouldn't get out of bed for 670. Jesus, no way. What are you talking about? Gross. No, that's what's called a first world problem. If you're going to complain about buying something and selling it with that kind of gain within a 2-year period, then you know, you've got some big problems, mate. You've got some big problems. That's it. This will just be one of several altcoins that I'll be adding to a long-term portfolio. And actually, you know, this would be the first time I'd actually be buying this, really. We always look at it from time to time, trading setups and whatnot. We never actually buy it. This time I am actually going to do it. I'm actually going to deploy a fair amount. Not tons, let's face it, not loads, but, you know, a decent wad. But, you know, not an absolute fortune, but a proportionate amount that I think that is worth putting into this, given the fact that I feel as though there's a decent risk to reward factor at play on Vechain. Now, I am talking about the long term, and it is relatively simple. It is as simple as that. We are turning down. We don't have any bearish divergence on the RSI, but we do have it on the money flow index, and normally that's enough to start the consolidation. And also, we've got a negative cross above the 0 point, but look, it's only just started, really, and I think there's a very good chance we come down to that 3. You might even wick down lower than that, because whether or not somebody's actually looking at this and going, "Oh, there's an accumulation, I'm going to buy at the top and the golden cross retest all in." No. But I would definitely think about putting 50% of what my of the capital I'm prepared to deploy into Vechain at the 3-cent zone. And if it goes down lower, then that's fine, because luckily for us, we're back into the accumulation zone, and you would fade the rest between about 2.2 all the way down to, hopefully, you know, again I say hopefully, even if I'd put 50% in here, I always wish for lower, given the setup like this, down to 1.4 cents. And again, you know, you can scale out all the way up. You don't have to hold in. You can scale out at 8. You can scale out at 15. You can scale all the way out at 25, and you can hold on until the market pops as one giant big bubble like it usually does. It's completely up to you. Now, in the short term, like I say, you know, whether it goes up or down this week is not my concern. I'm looking to enter in at these lower levels. But if we take it to a daily, we can also see that this range of, it's 3.2 cent is highlighted again with a simple moving average as well. So we've got daily offering the same rough support down here around 23, 24, 25% pullback, and we're also looking at the weekly doing it as well. So look, this is why I think the top of this accumulation range is definitely worthy of a 50% deployment, because even in the short term, if this just ends up being a decent bounce, then you got a decent bounce out of it, and the market looks like it's going to turn down and consolidate, which I think it will. You can at least exit that and then try it again with at least some decent profit that you've made on a short-term trade. So I'm just putting it out there that this reminds me a little bit of how Chainlink behaved, right? Chainlink was in a giant accumulation zone for a long period of time, probably actually the same amount of time as this, a lot neater, but more or less the same range, 100% range. And I've been saying to everybody the entire time, you know, week after week, we're in an accumulation from around about $5 to about $9.50. You know, it's rude not to dollar cost average into that. It's giving us time and time, week and week, month and month and month and month to do it. No one wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to do it because it's boring Chainlink, boring old Chainlink. They failed to recognize what it is that you're actually doing, that there is a plan at play here, and really what you're looking to do is buy low and sell high. Simple, really. But people want, you know, enormous, immediate gains, which is, you know, sometimes that can happen, sometimes it won't happen. But the main thing for me is to make sure that I get gains, and that I believe that this is going to be one of those charts which will yield gains. It might be 500, might be 700, might be 1,000, might be even more than that. Who knows? Might even fail. Of course it might. You know, I'm not under any illusion that this chart is you know, presenting in a magical way that's going to definitely do something. But out of all the altcoins that I've seen recently, outside of the ones that I like to trade myself, this one has made me think. that actually maybe I should usher it in, you know, bring it close to my bosom and welcome it to the portfolio. And I thought I'd bring it to your attention also because, like I say, it's the best way to make money through trading often requires patience. If you're a trader and you can sit around tapping buttons each day, yeah, it's about timing the market. But if you're, you know, casual investors, you know, long-term, if you're looking to buy and then generally sell it, and it is sometimes it's rather than timing the market, it's about time in the market. And I think that this is one of those charts which is going to offer you some gains over time. I'm just trying to put it to you though now that there is no perfect entry, like there is no perfect exit. All there really is a risk to reward factor, and I think the risk to reward on VeChain is actually favourable. I think it looks quite good, and I appreciate that all altcoins generally move as one when the market starts to pick up and get into that, you know, excitement phase, and this will just move through association, and there'll be other coins out there that have done 100x, and whether I'm in it or not, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm just looking to make some money, all right? And from a hodl perspective, I actually think that this is pretty decent. It's not the perfect low right now, but as soon as it starts to head closer towards 3 cents, I'll be picking some up 50% in here, another 50% of what's left around 2.2, and another one down here at the accumulation lows, if we get there at all. That is a big ask, but nothing is guaranteed in crypto, and we could absolutely imagine another 65% pullback on something like this. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but could it happen? Absolutely, it definitely could. So this is a plan for me, just like you have to make a plan for you. Do you feel like this is an acceptable plan? Let me know in the comments. It'll help the algorithm as well, but like I say, let me know in the comments. Fundamentally, I'm kind of blissfully unaware of sort of what exactly VeChain actually is. I recognise that it's got a big community. I recognise that it's heavily traded. It's available across most, if not all, platforms really. So it has the capacity to move. And, you know, before we start getting into the arguments about market caps and stuff like this, market caps, look, market caps for crypto are not a real reflection of what it really is. All right, market caps are not the same as something like a company. So when someone says, if I was to say, oh, VeChain could hit $1, which is like a nice clickbait title, which I'm not saying it's going to, but it could, of course it could. And then some sort of cheeky geezer is going to come out of the woodwork and go, do you realise that would make the market cap greater than the moon, the stars and Jupiter? Yeah, I know, but what will it be a week after that? Once the bubble pops, won't be the same, will it? It'll be wrecked city again, won't it? And the market cap won't reflect that whatsoever. So it's not the same. But fair enough. If you want to talk about it like that, then that's fine, because that also is your overall analysis of risk to reward. If you don't think the reward is great enough for you because you're afraid of the market cap, then that's fine. That's completely your call. But for me, I am talking about a 500 to 700% gain from well, like I say, the levels that I'm prepared to pick it up from. And for me, that's a freaking fortune. All right, that's a lot of money. Anyway, I'll leave with you there. Hopefully that's some food for thought. If you've got any other charts that seem to suggest the same sort of risk to reward factor, then please let me know. Otherwise, hope you have a nice day. Like and subscribe, and take it easy.